Good morning to all of you. Today we are going to study about Lost Spring. The chapter is written by Annie's Young, and she brings in front of us that how the children who are poverty stricken are underprivileged, and these children, they are child laborers. Yes, they are child laborers, but they accept this concept of child labor heartily. Well, you see, the story is named Lost Spring, which has a very deep meaning, which means that the childhood, which is lost, childhood here is referred to spring, and spring, it is actually the most beautiful season amongst all the seasons. It is symbolic of joy, hope, happiness, which can be compared with childhood. It is actually a metaphor being used for the loss of childhood of millions of children in our country. Here we find it is a very, very fascinating story which reveals the description of the lives of the underprivileged children in India. Annie is Young, the writer. She tells us that this these children, they are rag pickers, they are bangle makers, they are cleaners, they are servers at tea stalls, or they help in different places where they shouldn't be, and these children should be in a place which is called a school where they should study, and that is how their life should be, and it shouldn't be lost. It should be a life filled with happiness. But here we find that there is a perpetual state of poverty which is everlasting. It goes on, and this shows that poverty, that is, I mean, for these children, being poor, living in poverty, it is everlasting. It goes on and on. These children, they slog day and night, very hard. They work all through the day, and that is how they earn a bit of money for their family as well. I mean, a little extra money comes to their family. They live in dingy huts which are devoid of any sewage, any water, any running water. And in unhygienic situations, these children, they stay, they live there. That is how they grow up also. This is what the story is about. Today we are going to study about a little boy whose name is Sahib A. Alam, who is uh, who is a rag picker, a garbage picker. He goes around with a sack behind his back, just as we can see in this picture, as it is being shown the screen that has been shared with you. How filthily dressed this child is, without shoes, without any chappals. He has a sack behind him, and he is happy. It seems that he is very, very happy. Though we, the ones who are lucky enough to get education, come to school, be literate, we can very well understand that his life is not what it should be. It should have been something else. It should have been where this child should have been in some school where he could have got many friends, and there he could have studied. This is a somewhat an incredible sort of a situation which is perpetual, which actually goes on and on. Their parents are poor, their grandparents had been poor, and their future, it seems dark. It is actually, it can be said like this, that they are born in darkness and they move towards darkness till their death. Annie's Young was born in Rourkela, and she had spent her childhood and her adolescence in Hyderabad. She received her education in Hyderabad and in the United States as well. Both her parents were writers, and therefore she also got the inspiration from her parents, and then she took her career as a writer, and she that too she brings in front of us the major problems in India, like what we are going to study today, stories of stolen childhood. The chapter is named Sometimes I Find a Rupee in Garbage. That means the child, the rag picker, Sahib A Alam, his name is Sahib A Alam, and he is a rag picker. And he's very happy. He tells us that he's very happy when he finds a rupee coin in the garbage.
Anees Jung, an author, journalist and columnist, was born in 1944 in Rourkela. She has studied in India as well as in America. She started her career as a journalist with Youth Times and went on to work with other publications. She gained fame with her book Unveiling India, A Woman's Journey. Published in 1987, the book chronicles the lives of Indian women in a series of interviews. Her other books include Night of the New Moon, Seven Sisters, and Breaking the Silence. Jung's book Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood is a collection of real-life encounters with impoverished children from marginalized sections of society. Each story captures the harsh realities of child labor, which continues to rob countless Indian children of their childhood even today. The two excerpts from Lost Spring included in the textbook present the lives of two poor communities.
Well, you see, the following is an excerpt from her book titled Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood. Here, she analyzes the grinding poverty. There are two parts in this chapter. One is we are going to read about Sahib A Alam, who is a rag picker, and also we are going to study about Mukesh, who is a bangle maker. So we are going to do the first part today. Here, you see, it is an excerpt from her book, and she analyzes the grinding poverty and the traditions which you see condemn the life of exploitation. Can we find that here? See, we can very well understand that how this child, Sahib A Alam, who is scrounging through the garbage to find something useful for him, which he's going to sell, and he's going to get a little money. These children are denied of the opportunity of schooling, and they are forced into labor from their early lives. Like, see, we find the time when this child, Sahib Alam, should have been in the school, studying, playing with his friends. He is scrounging looking through the garbage to get something which is useful for him. Well, these children are pushed into uh, being child laborers from their early lives. Well, you see, the plight of these street children has been beautifully portrayed by Annie's Young through this chapter.
The first excerpt discusses the life of the migrant poor in Delhi who work as rag pickers for survival. The second one highlights the fate of a community of bangle makers from Firozabad who are doomed to a life of deprivation because they cannot escape their traditional occupation. Both excerpts show us how children especially have to bear the brunt of poverty. From not being able to attend school to being forced to work in inhuman conditions in traditional professions without any hope of escape. Here is a summary of the excerpts from Lost Spring.
Well, you see, the story begins with the line, "Why do you do this?" I ask Sahib, whom I encounter every morning scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood. Annie's Young. She asks Sahib that why do you have to do this? I mean, why do you have to become a, a person who has to pick rags? Why? Why do you scrounge around in the garbage? Well, you see, the writer, she sees these children. It is not only Sahib who comes here. She finds many children along with Sahib. They come every morning in her neighborhood where they come and they dig the garbage heaps. And as if they dig them as if they would want that some treasure would be coming out from them, something precious. Precious here means that it would be something that they would be selling off, and that is how they are going to get some money. It is very revealing description. We find a revealing description here about the lives of these underprivileged children who we find in the streets of India, where they go about for digging something, some treasure from the garbage heaps to sell them at some point of time when they would be getting some money out of it. This young boy, he is from Dhaka, but he had left his home long ago because he was told by his mother that there were storms there which had swept away their fields, their houses, and there was nothing left for them to stay there. They couldn't get proper food to eat there. There was no job there. So they had to move to a bigger place which would give them some opportunity of going ahead in their lives to earn a little bit. And therefore, they have come to this city, that is Delhi. But it is on the outskirts of Delhi, a place named Simapuri, where they have put up to make fortune here. He had heard of all these things because from his mother, because as he grows up, with his family, he finds that poverty is something which he is accepting, which he knows that I have to do something also along with my parents. And therefore, it doesn't come to their mind that we will not be a part of this whole family and we will also help to keep our family moving on.
The first excerpt describes the narrator's encounters with a child named Sahib. Sahib and his family migrated from Dhaka after their homes and fields were destroyed by storms. Now, they live on the outskirts of Delhi, digging through garbage dumps in the city for their livelihood. Sahib does not go to school.
Now, here the writer tells us that he keeps on ransacking the garbage heaps, and when the writer had asked him that why he does so, he had answered that he had nothing else to do, that's why. Now, the writer suggested that he should go to a school. But he had answered that there wasn't any in the neighborhood. Then she had joked with him that she would build one day. And you see, she had said it in a matter of fact way. She had said it glibly. She had said it just in a way of conversation. And the child, so innocent, he understands that that was the truth. And after some days, he comes running to her and asked her if her school rather, was ready. She was embarrassed at that moment and she had felt that she shouldn't have promised, because all promises in this bleak world, they are not to be fulfilled. This world is a bleak world. That's what the author tells us. She tells us that this world is cheerless, it is dull for those who are underprivileged, and they are promised many things which are never fulfilled.
Because there are none in his neighborhood. The narrator light-heartedly asks Sahib if he would attend a school started by her. He agrees and even asks the narrator about it a few days later. She realizes that she had made a promise she had not really meant to keep, and recognizes with embarrassment that for children like Sahib, such broken promises are common. The narrator.
Now, after a few months, when she has come to know him and his friends, who would be daily coming out with him without chappals, and they would be going about to pick the garbage, the writer, out of curiosity, one day asks him his name. He told her that it was Sahib-e-Alam. Well, she knew that it meant Lord of the universe. But Sahib himself did not know the meaning of his name. If he knew, it would be so ironical that Sahib-e-Alam, which means Lord of the universe, was going around picking garbage. Well, this was something that would never be known to him. Even if he did, he would find it hard to believe that his parents had named him so. Well, over the months, she grew to recognize all the boys who would be coming with, uh, with Sahib-e-Alam for picking the garbage in her neighborhood. And one day, out of curiosity again, she finds them without chappals. And then she couldn't help but she asks a simple question to them, that why aren't you wearing a chappal? He gives a very easy answer. He says that my mother did not bring them down from the shelf. Well, you see, another one who was listening to the conversation, he says that even if his mother brought it down, he would be throwing it away. But there was another boy there who says that he would love to own a pair of shoes in his life. And he expresses that desire that one day he would surely have a pair of shoes. He would love to have them.
Narrator notes that Sahib and his friends are mostly barefoot and have never worn shoes in their life. Those who do have shoes wear mismatched ones. The narrator recalls seeing many such barefoot children across the country.
Now see, during her travels across the country, she notices innumerable children who go about on the village roads, in the cities, these underprivileged children, they would be going about barefoot. Now, what was the explanation? What could be the possible explanation of their remaining barefoot? Though they had chappals at home, yet they would be going about, without any chappals. This made her wonder. She felt that could it be the tradition that goes on, that their parents go without chappals and so they also go without chappals? Well, you see, a possible explanation that could come to our minds is that it was the constant state of poverty, the perpetual state of poverty that went on on, which actually is everlasting. To understand this, we should make it in our minds. We should understand this, that it is only an excuse to explain the perpetual state of poverty.
She recollects people explaining this way as tradition and wonders if this is just an excuse to hide how widespread poverty is. The narrator
Well, in between, I would like to tell you that the author, then she recalls a story about a man from Udupi who had told her the story. It was that he had said that when he was a young boy, he used to pass the temple gate every day in the morning and he would be praying to God for a pair of shoes. Well, he would be saying that he wished to have a pair of shoes. He prayed to God for that in his life he would like to own a pair of shoes. Well, 30 years later, when the author visits the town and the temple, she finds that the town was quite, it was abandoned, it was deserted. But she goes to the temple where she finds in the backyard the new priest was there, and had they had chairs, white and red plastic chairs. And there was a little child, a boy, who was wearing a gray uniform, was wearing shoes and socks as well. Well, that was quite an upgradation, we can understand. That the child who had wanted to own a pair of shoes 30 years back who had prayed to God each and every day, today he is going to school. His generation, they are going to school, and have they have along with them chairs where they can sit, and you see they have a pair of shoes. Finally they have got a pair of shoes which he could be proud of owning them. So we can say that the goddess had granted his prayer. And while you see, but why? While we find that children, like the son of priests, now wore shoes, there were many other innumerable number. I mean, endless number of children who were there going without them still.
Narrator then recollects her visit to Simapuri on the outskirts of Delhi, where migrants like Sahib's family live. The neighborhood is dotted with mud and tin houses without water or drainage.
Well, one day, you see, the writer, she wanted to visit this place, and she goes, while this place's name is Simapuri, where she goes, it is to see actually the place which is named Simapuri, and it is a place where 10,000 rag pickers stayed together. It is a place on the outskirts of Delhi. Geographically, we can say that this place is near to Delhi. But both Delhi and Simapuri cannot be compared with each other. One is rich, the other is below poverty level. People, they live here, they are illegal occupants who had come here from Bangladesh long time back. And you see, they have come here in 1971. And Sahib's family, they stay here, they live here. At one time, this was a deserted area, but now numerous structures of mud with tin roofs and tarpaulin uh, roofs, they were staying here. All you can calculate it as 10,000 people, I mean 10,000 rag pickers, all were staying here together. They have no proper sewage, no running water, no drainage system, nothing. But still, so many people, 10,000, I mean thousands and thousands of people, they are staying here together, all together in these dingy mud houses. Well, you see, these unfortunate people, they do not have any identity of their own. They have got ration cards, well, and their names were on the voters list as well. They were listed. And that is how, from the ration cards, they get some grains to buy. You see, they are able to buy grains at low cost, but they do not have any identity of their own.
The residents there have no identity papers except ration cards which enable them to get food. For them, having a source of food is more important than having an identity.
Yes, they are more interested in 2 meals a day rather than the identity, the papers that they might get.
This is why they prefer to be here than in their home country where they went hungry. The narrator notes that for the adults in Simapuri, rag picking is a source of livelihood. But for children like Sahib, it is a source of hope, as they even find money among garbage sometimes.
Just as I told you that this is a place of wonder for them. They find a 1 rupee coin, they find a 10 rupee note, They find broken toys, and they also do find pair of shoes there that the rich children have discarded. Well, you see, just as we understand well that food is very, very important to them rather than their identity, and that is the reason why they have left their native place. We come to understand this also, and that is the reason why they struggle to survive here. Hence, wherever they would be finding food, they will be pitching their tents up there. They would be making their temporary homes there. And that is how you see children grew up here. They are also struggling for survival as rag pickers. Well, with years of practice, we find that they have become very adept with their job. They are very skillful now. They can go to these small children, they can go to any garbage heaps where they may find things useful for them, and those that they can sell off to buy food. This is their livelihood, of course, though meager it was. However, you see, scrounging the garbage was a means of survival for the adults. But to the children, it was something wrapped in wonder. Each day, they had a new surprise awaiting. Well, these children are quite happy to do the job that they are doing. Because they had not been to schools, they do not know that their lives could have been better than what they are going into now.
One morning, the narrator finds Sahib watching two young men playing tennis. She notices that Sahib is wearing someone's old tennis shoes and ponders that though he has the shoes, he might never be able to play the game.
This game, you see, is a game for the rich people. Well, one winter morning, when the writer notices this Sahib-e-Alam, who was from beyond the fence, who was watching a game of tennis, and he was wearing a pair of shoes also, which has been discarded by some rich boy. Well, you see, he was staring at the game. He was looking at the game, but still, you see, he wouldn't be ever uh, be able to get into the tennis court and play there. He liked the game, of course, and therefore he was watching it. And you see, he also admitted that he loved going to that place, because when there was nobody playing, the the gatekeeper would allow him to go inside and swing. Well, he was happy with that only. That day, the tennis shoes that he was wearing, it belonged to somebody else. It was torn, it was worn out, but he seemed to be very happy. Rather than being on barefoot, he was wearing those. That was as if a bonanza.
Another day, she sees Sahib with a steel canister. He had started working at a tea stall. The narrator notes that Sahib is no longer carefree now that he works for someone else.
Well, we find as the chapter comes to close, we find that Sahib-e-Alam, uh, he was without a sack behind him. He was having a huge steel canister on his hand. And that morning, it was noticed by the writer that he has lost his carefree look. He is not himself. He was not that happy, that the happiness that could be seen when he was picking rags. He was a garbage picker. He was not that Sahib Alam. Well, he happily, but then too, he happily tells the writer that now he gets 800 rupees per month, and he is also given all his meals. Well, that should have been a very happy ending uh, for this child who had been working so hard for his family to get extra little money for the family. But now he gets quite an amount. 800 is a huge amount for this child, but still he sorry, he seems he was not very happy about it, and therefore you see was he was there. He was now overburdened. The sack did not burden him, it seems, but the steel canister overburdened. And he was as if he had lost his carefree look, and therefore he was burdened with the responsibility of a serious job, now being the server at a tea stall. Well, this is how we come to the end of the chapter. This chapter, it brings in front of us the description of the marginalized society, and it tells us, this chapter tells us about child labor, it, in its own evocative language. It is all about children coming to cities to work as rag pickers, and then onto the tea stalls after a few days when he gets into tea stalls. Or maybe when we go on to the next part of the story, we will be finding that these small children, they will be working in furnaces, which, I mean, where they they will be exposed to health hazards as well. Okay, thank you very much. We come to the end of this session.